In 1 year, the smartest AI jumped from 96 to 136 IQ on the Mensa Norway test. In other words, AI went from the intelligence of an average person to nearly the IQ of a genius. This has AI scientists terrified, and the godfather of AI and Nobel laureate. But why exactly are scientists so worried about AI getting smarter? So to understand how close we really are to that outcome, we're breaking down Leopold Aschenbrenner's famous report Situational Awareness, which is circulating among top US government officials. We would rapidly go from human level to vastly superhuman AI systems. Most people think the atomic bomb is the most game board flipping invention in the history of war, but arguably one atomic bomb could wipe out a city, but one hydrogen bomb could wipe out a country. A single bomb with more explosive power than all the bombs dropped in the entirety of World War II combined. That's the scale of the difference we're talking about between AGI, or artificial general intelligence, and superintelligence. But what does this difference mean in real life, and how dangerous for humans could this really be? Imagine this, each vastly more intelligent than many humans, capable of novel, creative, and incomprehensibly complex behavior. Their power wouldn't stop at machine learning. Superintelligence would ignite explosive progress across every field. Robotics, biotech, weapon systems, material science, what took humans decades, they'd solve in days. An industrial explosion would follow, then a military one. It would offer godlike power both to create and to destroy. And once it begins, we will be living through the most volatile moment in the history of our species. So how close are we to this future? Well, Aschenbrenner lays out 4 critical steps to get to superintelligence. The first is getting to AGI, which we previously covered. The next steps are all about using AI to automate AI research itself. And here's the problem. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt warned, "Isn't just a theory, it's already happening." A scientist at Google DeepMind reveals. But first things first, we have to reach AGI and then we can worry about all the other steps, right? The problem is, AGI is much closer than we think. The 3 major heads of AI labs all think this is going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years, and everyone's timelines for AGI are shrinking, even famous AI skeptics like Yann LeCun. Besides, automating AI research isn't actually as hard as it seems. To get there, you don't need the AI to become genius level in every field. Imagine trying to create an expert biologist AI that can research new cures for diseases. You don't start by training it on biology. You only need to automate AI research so that the AI itself can think faster and become smarter. Then once it is much smarter, it could easily and quickly learn advanced biology, or any topic for that matter. And we've already seen leaps like this happen before. No education of like the history of human chess playing 10 hours a day for 30, 40 years, being the greatest human in the world at it. And then something can come in, and Kasparov, after the move, C4 has resigned right now. This is happening at an insane pace in the field of robotics. A year ago, humanoid robots weren't advanced enough to even walk smoothly. But a tactic called reinforcement learning changed everything. Robots can now learn not just to walk, but to do side flips, kip-ups, and even kung fu. Completely on their own. Boston Dynamics. Atlas has learned to run and break dance by simulating running. Think of implications. That's how Neo in the Matrix was able to learn kung fu in the blink of an eye. I know kung fu. Do you realize just how suddenly our little chatbots might go from blinking cursors to very real things? Some people assume that we'll see robots in the real world slowly getting better over years or decades. But if they can learn 10,000 times faster via simulation, they could blow our expectations out of the water. So there's a very real chance we'll see humanoid robots casually walking around pretty much everywhere in the next 5 years. And there are many more examples of these fast takeoffs using reinforcement learning. Minecraft, shogi, Go, chess, etc. But even if we don't get a fast takeoff, we're in for a wild ride. Remember, Aschenbrenner argues that we don't need to automate robotics research to get to superintelligence. Implement experiments to test those ideas and interpret the results and repeat where simple extrapolations of current AI capabilities could easily take us to. Or that's why AI being able to research better algorithms on its own is such a big deal. Sit with that for a second. That's like if a $50,000 Tesla dropped to just $50 and ran better, and that's not just about saving money. When we have more compute, we can use it to make the model smarter and cheaper, and the cycle repeats. But once we do reach AGI, we won't just have one of its kind. Aschenbrenner and other researchers used perhaps 100 million. A single H100, one of today's top AI chips, has about the same raw computing power as a human brain, and we're on track to have 100 million H100 equivalents worldwide in just a few years. That's potentially 100 million AI workers right there. But the thing is, Gemini 1. 5 Flash is 10 times faster than the originally released GPT-4, merely while providing similar performance. The automated AI researchers will be able to find similar wins very quickly. They'll each be able to do a year's worth of work in just a few days. This is why Geoffrey Hinton is terrified. The final step to reach superintelligence will happen when AI becomes superhuman, not only in coding, but they'll become qualitatively better than the best human researchers because learn in parallel from each of their copies and rapidly accumulate the equivalent of millennia of experience. Geoffrey Hinton is also worried that, and here's why this is just so dangerous for the human race. Okay, but is this really the future that's waiting for us, or just a cool sci-fi scenario? Let's take a look at the limitations that could slow down the intelligence explosion. So this is a series of questions every major AI lab has been asking about: how likely, and how the majority are interpreting the evidence. To make algorithmic progress, AI researchers have to run experiments, and that takes serious computing power. You simply can't run machine learning experiments if you don't have enough chips to run them on, which is why the CEO of DeepSeek said that. But here's the thing, AI researchers working at 100 times human speed are far more likely to design more efficient experiments in the same amount of time compared to human researchers, so they won't need to waste as much compute as the inefficient humans. And as algorithmic progress continues, those same experiments also get cheaper and more effective. Remember, maybe the law of diminishing returns applies here. And there will be a point where developing more intelligence will eventually lead to smaller and smaller increases in inefficiency until we hit a wall. But that seems pretty unlikely because AI is still a young field, and we haven't thrown nearly as much of humanity's brainpower at it as we have at other fields, like math or physics. For almost all of human history, progress was flat. Then suddenly, it explodes. What does it feel like to stand here? And the intelligence explosion won't just stay in the lab. Once we have superintelligence, it will spill out into everything. This would massively accelerate scientific progress. Imagine going from the Wright brothers to fighter jets to the moon and to ICBMs in just a few years. That's just how Aschenbrenner sees the 2030s going, an industrial and economic explosion driven by an alien intelligence. Physical labor could be automated with robot factories that cover the entire Nevada desert, and all mental work could be automated by data centers filled with AI, all thinking faster than any human ever could just by using standard economist models of economic growth. Yes, existing future red tape would slow things down. For example, governments could force lawyers and doctors to be human by law. So, the intelligence explosion will likely be very uneven. Some fields would grow exponentially, while others, like the longshoremen port workers where automation can literally be made illegal, would stay the same. But none of these changes comes close to what superintelligence means for military and governments. Imagine mosquito-sized drone swarms, novel WMDs, things we can't yet fathom. It'll be like 21st century militaries fighting 19th century brigades of horses and bayonets. Even without robots, the small civilization of superintelligences would be able to hack any undefended military, election, television, etc., and also cunningly persuade generals. They could design new synthetic bioweapons and then pay a human in Bitcoin to synthesize them, and so on, conquered the Aztec empire of 10 million. They didn't have godlike power, but the old world's technological edge and an advantage in strategic and diplomatic cunning led it to an utterly decisive advantage. Superintelligence is the ultimate game board flipper. Once it arrives, it becomes almost impossible to predict what will happen next. The shift will be fast. Overwhelmingly fast. The world won't have time to process what's happening before everything starts to go insane. Think about all the crazy things that happened in the 20th century. Now imagine all that compressed into just a few years. Maybe this sounds like sci-fi to you. Superintelligence is the stated goal of the leading scientists at the AI labs, and the heads of the top 3 AI labs all think this is likely coming in the next 2 to 5 years. Thousands of academics with no financial stake in the AI industry signed a letter stating that AI poses a risk of human extinction. Geoffrey Hinton, who quit his high-paying job at Google to warn the world, put our chances of going extinct at 50%. The intelligence explosion is an imminent possibility, and we need to prepare for now. If you want to see a detailed, concrete scenario of how this superintelligence might take over, check out this video next. This is a small channel, and this video took a long time to make. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I appreciate your support.